Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the third episode. And this is probably the last one before we get into the new year. So we're going to try and make it worth everyone's time.
Yeah, welcome everyone. We've been struggling with when to drop or when to record, and we obviously wanted to get one done before the end of the year. And yeah, this is just the day we found. I think Avyay seamlessly transitioned into the role of a busy university postgrad student in London. I'm sort of doing my thing here in Atlanta, Georgia, and still the moving target, which is the title of this podcast, it's living up to its name. I mean, the AI frenzy doesn't seem to be slowing down anytime soon.
Feels to be
If anything,
speeding
it's
up.
speeding up.
Now
It's
it's
yeah, yeah, it just feels like it's speeding up. I think we're just basically entering the steep part of the roller coaster in my view. But
I think it's got to the point where now it's speeding up because everybody's trying to play catch up and out
yes,
one up the others. And I think the catalyst was basically Google coming up to par with OpenAI and uh Anthropic, with Gemini 3.
yes,
And now we recently found out, like just a few minutes ago, that they legally scraped the web, allegedly, and that's what the European Union is accusing them of doing to catch up
that
to
news.
OpenAI and Anthropic. Yeah, it's still very early news, so we don't even know if it's true. But it's quite interesting how everything's just moved so quickly. Like think about most of the work that we've been doing and most of the frameworks we use and the tools we're using weren't there a year ago. So this time last year, it was
Yeah,
like, and it's been 3 years since ChatGPT came out, and how AI has drastically changed the applications of it, how it's moving forward. It's all just
yeah, no, I feel similarly, very, very introspective and also, amazed and how, we are kind of at this inflection point. I mean, I think we should consider ourselves very fortunate to be present at the time. This is almost like, this is, again, I've mentioned this before. This may not be like electricity, but it's pretty close. It's pretty darn close to electricity. It certainly feels to me like a whole new way of sort of getting business processes automated. I mean, that's only one part of AI, but for the most part, I've been a guy who builds business software in the form of SaaS most recently, pretty much for the last 10, 15 years. And I just feel like this is a bigger shift than even mobile was, right? So the mobile web was certainly very revolutionary. I remember very clearly speaking to a close friend of mine who used to work at Google at the time, and I think he told me this was maybe 2008 or 9, and he said, like there was a seminal moment, there was an inflection point because Google was all about the data. So at one point, and it happened sometime in 2010, 11, or 12, where the actual search traffic for Google that was coming from desktops was way up here, right before mobile web, and then
before the
it
iPhone and
go-
everything came.
yeah, and then basically it just they literally were, one thing was going down and the other thing was going up, and they crossed each other, and they've never sort of that
Yeah, I think
trend has never,
it's
right.
like
So it's
the
all,
around the it's around that time exactly where the 2010 point where the first iPhone was coming out, BlackBerry was very big, and more of the largest screens and everybody getting used to replacement of your desktop pretty much. There were those phones with those keypads which you had and which used to open up like mini desktops, and
yes,
everybody's
yes.
trying to basically build something to replace the laptop because the laptop was the state of the art at that time, and
And
now
that's a really powerful insight. Now you've said a lot, and I'm sure you're meant to say that. What you meant to say was that initially people are thinking, oh, we just replace. That's why BlackBerry was so popular, because it
yeah,
gave people the
exactly.
tactile feedback, and it was just like a smaller version of your laptop. And now we know, having seen what's happened since, that that was an initial, that was a hiccup. They
It
were
was an initial like thing. It was like a concept, how it just like a skipping stone. It's like you needed to skip that stone to
then
realize
you
what
got,
the power of it was. And I think
yeah,
we haven't strayed away from that DNA because what they've done. Apple with the iPhone was take that keypad and make it invisible when you weren't using it, right? But it's still
Yeah.
present. So you still have the same functionality that BlackBerry had, except it's not
Yes.
taking up that much real estate on your phone. So they just found a
Absolutely.
way to make it more convenient. And I think where we are with LLMs is getting there. I'm not sure how much of the people, we've kind of become quite used to using it at a very different level than most people are
Yeah.
using it, right? We're always using it to actually research more about LLMs and how LLMs work, which is very different to what the average consumer would use them as. And I think for the average consumer, they're not realizing how much better they're getting because they're not using complex enough reasoning with it, right? I think the people using complex enough reasoning is probably 5% of the population. That might be also a little bit much.
That
So,
might be a stretch as well. Yeah.
and the thing is that it's a very, very small group of people realizing how fast it's moving. For everybody else, Chat GPT is Chat GPT. Like you have,
Yeah. Yeah. And I think you're definitely right about that. I think that ChatGPT will just continue to get better over time. And like you said, the vast majority of the people that are using it will use only a fraction of its capabilities. But it'll still be powerful, right? It'll keep getting better.
I
It'll
mean,
keep even better.
right now, it's so much better than anybody. Like, for the average person, it's still much better than they ever expected it to be. And, to get to its maximum potential and reach its limits is not viable for a normal person to do because they're not actually stressing it to the point of its knowledge. Maybe hallucinations there a little bit, but that's here and there. They can't take it really. They can optimize it and make it work better, but like the whole memory structure is made in a way that it's made to hallucinate a little bit.
Yeah.
Because
I mean, the hallucination part is obviously, that's the nature of the beast. I mean, the two big stories for me for this year were we'll come to the year in review in a bit, but the few things that caught me my attention, I heard a few podcasts about definitely one guy who was just so down on his view is that basically uh, AI is going to destroy humanity, right? And the reason he thinks that's the case is because of something he calls alignment or misalignment. And alignment doesn't is not if AI is not aligned because it's the way it's trained is wrong, it's always gonna eventually there'll be the risk of it doing something totally catastrophic because you're giving it too much power. So that's his view. So I always remember that in the back of my head whenever I'm thinking or building something. And and of course the other big story is agents, right? Agents. This is the year of the agent. If you
yeah, pretty
think
much
back,
everybody's got an agent now. But the
everyone.
thing is, in reality, how many agents are actually using things which are scalable and reliable. We build agents and we've built a lot of agents recently and we've been doing a lot of work on agents, which is for our work, which we'll disclose when we can. But most of it is actually important to understand that agents are complicated by nature because you're trying to get LLMs and models to perform in a way which they're not inherently made to perform in, right? And they're interacting with multiple data sources. They're using MCP and RAG to try and pull the information and what is actually accurate information, and how they order that information. So I think it's very important that people do realize that any agent that you create has to be reliable. And I think people are looking away from reliability and just shipping agents to say that agents have been shipped.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, we talked about agents a lot. I'm just trying to remember what we talked about in our last episode. I don't want us to repeat ourselves, and because it's been almost 2 months since our last episode, I worry about sounding repetitive to our user. But the thing is that we're trying to be somewhat introspective and retrospective during this episode. At least it's a year-end episode, so I do want us to have a slightly longer, uh, you know, um, window when we discuss what we discuss, and so we will probably go over some of the stuff that we've already done. But
in
uh,
in essence, being a review, we will go over what we've talked about, but it sets the base for the next year and many more episodes to come and how we work on it. We might get a little repetitive, but that's because the nature of the work is such, right? There is a lot of repetition in our work because you do mess up a lot of times before you get it right, and nobody knows how many times you mess up other than us, because or other people working in the field, right? You don't understand what it takes till you've done it, because it seems very simple once you built it, but getting to that stage, you're like, why didn't I think of this before? Why didn't I try this before? It was right in front of my eyes. But in that moment, you're
Amazing.
just like trying everything. It's like that, you just have that look on your face that what did I do wrong? And
We've had so many of those moments. I've actually gotten to the point where I'm no longer surprised.
yeah, yeah.
And
And when we've actually, like, the thing is, now we've got to a point where we can replicate it on two different devices, on two different operating systems, just using basic files which we created. And what we learned is that having context stored in text files, long text files, which say everything regarding your build, is how models actually behaving efficiently. Because that's what we saw, that
yeah,
models
yeah,
work with
you definitely
only.
talk about that. By the way, listeners, I mean, you'll obviously have inferred this by now. We are not scripted. We are completely not scripted. Not only are we not scripted, we don't even plan a lot of this stuff. We just record. And maybe that's going to change in the new year. Maybe that is definitely going to change in the new year. If you're going to try to build up readership base and listenership base, we have to be a little bit more organized. Maybe get a virtual producer telling us, you can't do this. So please bear with us. This year, yeah, that's what a producer actually does, and we don't have one. So apologies to everyone. We're just both building. I mean, Avyay, besides being a full-time student, he's also building this business, and I've got two or three projects. So, but we do feel like the once in a month cadence is an important cadence right now for us, because even a once in a month cadence, we this is now, maybe I think we're 2 months delayed, right?
No,
This
I
is
think
about a month and a half.
we're it's about a month and a couple of days, because I uploaded it in the first week of November. So
Okay, so
I
yeah,
think
so we're about. I think we're going to
we're
drop
about-
this in the middle of the month. So about a month, about 6 weeks. So 6 weeks is doesn't feel like a lot, but trust me, if you're not following what's happening in the AI world, 6 weeks
Yo,
is like
6 weeks is like a year. I'm telling you, like we missed, I think, a couple of days. I think we went like 5 days, something, without connecting,
and it
and we
felt like
got back,
so much
and
had happened.
we were like, okay,
Yeah,
we need a refresher first. We need to get through
yeah,
everything, digest everything.
yeah.
It took us an hour or two to just go through everything, understand it, get it going. But like, what we started to realize is that, okay, the best way to do it is find actual applications for AI and build
Yes.
around those which teach you the most. Because I think the practical sense of AI is not spoken about enough, because everybody right now, any news headline you read, anything you read about AI is all about how much compute they're using, how much money they're taking, and what the valuation's going to be.
Well, or the other class of headline is the doomer headline, which is to say, oh my God, this is the end of XYZ profession. Pick a profession, pick a way of doing business, and it's the end, right? Software engineering is over. Nobody should tell their kid to go into software engineering anymore. Or I was just talking to you about the Economist article a few weeks ago that said this is the end of the billable hour, right? It's all going to be milestone based. Those are great, but they don't tell you what's happening on the ground, right? Like what is happening
That
every
that's
day.
completely it's completely inaccurate, because the thing is, what people don't realize is that humans need humans, right? And the one downside of AI, which I feel, is also people have stopped asking questions.
Yes,
Like, you can feel it. Like, you feel it
especially
in the
your
class,
generation. I mean, more than
in a classroom or in public or anything. People used
that's
to
crazy.
ask questions,
That's
and
crazy.
you'll notice it. And going through Twitter also now, you can see when a comment is AI generated for me, because it's not in the first person, not in the third person. It's in this, like, the second person. Like, somebody else is speaking for you. Text.
Interesting.
So, like,
Interesting.
you go through comments on, like, popular, like, Elon Musk's tweet. The first 30 comments you read, or 30 subtweets, are just literally AI generated. And I can tell, because it's not something, I would say, it's not something somebody else would type. It's like,
Wow.
like a professor in a second, like between first and third person, saying, this is the right way to do it in a lecture or something. And they're typing a tweet like that. So, I mean, it's not it's very, very getting to the point where natural interaction is dying. It's an actual thing which is happening, natural
Yeah.
interaction, where you would ask a question, or, like, now you can walk into any coffee shop and people will be scared to ask. Like, they normally ask the barista. I've seen this firsthand. Saw somebody the other day, I was ordering coffee, and they were like, how many calories are in oat milk or something in front of me. So I was just like, you can like, it's written on the board, it's like there,
Oh,
but
they were asking their Gemini or whatever.
yeah, Gemini, GPT.
That's
So
so
they all
interesting.
have this, they all have like, an interface open at all time.
They'd rather actually ask their agent or whatever that device than actually like just talk to
Yeah,
a
like they
human
don't
who's
want to talk to
standing right
people.
in front of them. They're standing literally in
Yeah,
front of
this right in front of me. Well, I wasn't Star. I think it's like Joe and the Juice somewhere. We study. I was like after the gym, I was going for like a juice or a uh, protein shake, and I just saw somebody like typing how many calories in oat milk.
That's
Like,
sad. That really makes me sad. That is a really, really um sad development. I hope it's reversed.
and that's the thing. Like, people will it will make people less interactive with other humans because the
Did you
thing is
read about what's happening in Australia? They've banned
social media for under 16.
internet use under 16. I wonder how that would play out. I mean,
No, but I think you know I have a view on it, but it might be a little polarizing. But I really feel like social media is just showing the positive or the negative too much. There's no in between. The mundane is gone. When is the last time you opened an Instagram or something and saw something mundane? It's
yeah.
either bad or it's good. There's no in
It's
between. There's
clickbait.
no
Now it's all
drama.
clickbait, right? You basically somebody was telling me about something that I read somewhere that it's basically oh yeah, another one of my Insta friends, one of my classmates who's become an Insta influencer, he talks about there's something called troll bait. Okay.
Yeah,
And
I've seen that. It's called rage baiting. Yeah.
rage baiting.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah.
Rage baiting is when you say something purposely inflammatory or provocative
Yeah,
because you're
to get
inviting
it in.
people to rage against you because ultimately it's all about engagement, right? So if you can
Yeah.
show negative
Any engagement
engagement,
is good engagement. And bad engagement actually gets you more engagement than bad good engagement. Nobody's everybody wants to have that part where it's a lot of angry people and it's riling people up. That's the thing on the internet. Like, they'll make an obscene comment. Like there was this post on Twitter the other day. Somebody made like this obscene comment about San Francisco software engineering. And it was purposely sarcastic. Like you could see the sarcastic tone in it, but so many people got offended without
yeah.
understanding it and were like mindlessly commenting underneath it. And then the person came out and said, I was it was
My whole thinking is, where people finding so much time to spend so much time on Twitter when there's so much to catch up on. Like I barely feel like I spend 8 to 10 hours a day just trying to keep up with what's happening in the AI world and
yeah,
keep
like
myself cut.
we're
And I think
busy.
I messaged this to you 2 days ago. I felt like I'd finally got up with the AI world because I literally I heard that MCP had been donated by Anthropic to the Linux Foundation, and that somehow I managed to see that news as it was breaking. Literally, they had put up
Yeah.
the post a few hours ago, and I was like, "Wow, I'm actually up to speed." I'm
Yeah.
actually, like even a day late is like feels like you're getting something, and by the time some comment is 3 days old, it's already considered old.
Yeah, no, like somebody came out with something about, or like I'm telling you, Opus 4.5 feels like it came out 6 months ago. It came out a
Yeah,
week
it
and a
came
half
out
ago.
5 days ago. Yeah,
And now GPT 5.2 is here, Gemini came out like, and everything
yeah,
feels ancient. Like to think that GPT 5 was not even 3 months old. Because we
yeah, yeah.
found GPT 5, you remember? It was
We
not
hated GPT-5 when it came out. We loved. I mean, that's why I think maybe we should step back. So let's talk about the year, and then I think let's maybe be a little systematic because I think
Yeah.
we're now entering the second half of our show,
Yeah.
or more or less. But yeah, I think enough banter. But let's talk about. So again, just to recap, this year we had sort of started collaborating this year, earlier this year, with obviously I won't go back into my Databricks because that was covered extensively during our first episode.
I forgot
But
about Databricks. I feel like it was
Databricks,
2 years ago.
Databricks feels like it feels like this ex that you were so much in love with at one point, and then they broke your heart, and now you don't even think about them. They're like, who, what?
You did, you were
You
very
don't even
attached
think about
to
them
Databricks. I
anymore.
remember it. I remember Databricks. It was like at the start of it, it was like your
I
golden
was
child.
hot.
It
I
was like
was
your
hot and
protege.
heavy. I was so hot and heavy for Databricks. I was basically putting them in all my proposals, and I was saying, data engineering is the bomb. Databricks is going to be the way that they're going to be like the new AWS. They're going to be the new backbone. I don't know if that's going to happen, but my prediction, at least I'm not jumping back and forth here, is they're not going to be another AWS. They're not even going to be another um,
I think they'll slowly
Shopify.
fade. I think they'll
Might be the
slowly
next
fade into
Shopify.
what they
Yeah,
were.
they are going to probably end up being a little bit like, I mean, I don't want to say, I mean, MongoDB is a really, really bad thing because they're much smaller. They're much more focused. But their vision to become sort of the, the de facto substrate for all data engineering, all AI, that's fading. That's not happening, right? Like they're nowhere near the top, at least. And it could be that they're not in my feed because I hate them, and Google knows that I hate them. But I mean, I think
No, I haven't heard
you're not
anything about them
biased,
either. Like,
you're
and
not as
I'm
biased against them as I am. So, and you're not seeing them anywhere. Like they're nowhere
no,
near in the top.
the thing with Databricks is, you know what actually happened. Now the problem is flipped on the head. I'll tell you what the problem is. Everybody doesn't care about data engineering anymore because they're
Yes.
too busy worried about data warehousing, right? And
Yes.
data warehousing comes first before the data engineering. And the thing they're saying is that the models are getting so good at data engineering, and we've seen it, how quickly a model can even build a whole database, so
Yeah, no, I agree. I totally agree. I think that layer of sort of that thing that they call data intelligence, which felt amazing to me when I was, when you and I were like, oh my God, we just ingested a database and now we can ask natural language questions of it. My God, that is literally like that's something that any one of these models can do within 5 minutes, right? They can
yeah,
build you.
now I mean their whole business, like the thing is, we understood, like, okay, but we are also working with much more advanced tools now than we were before. So I
No,
mean,
but this, yeah, but the state of the art, there was not enough of a moat, I think, for Databricks. So Databricks, ultimately, at the end, their core tech is Apache Spark, which is this amazing technology which allows you to, do something with data that hadn't previously been done. Right, that was their thing, and I think that was already a pretty successful business, right? Before GPT came out in 2022, I
yeah,
think. But I felt like they just went all in on this data, integrating AI into their data platform to
yeah,
the
I think
point.
that kind of backfired because the assistant
I
wasn't.
think even their core business now, you can't. They haven't been able to decouple it because it's like they should have played a little bit more cool and been like, look, okay, we have a core business, we have customers who like us. We're not another AI company. Uh, and maybe that transition
It's
will
probably it's
maybe,
probably from the people who've put invested funds,
yeah,
VCs.
maybe they'll be able to bring it back. I'm sure they'll be fine. I mean, there's a
But what we felt this year was, from our progression in the year end review is like, our progression from where we were in January last year or December last year, where we were just talking about restructuring, our tables and rebuilding the Vesta LDK application with, Node.js and Angular, and we were using MySQL, and we were looking to move to an API based structure
No,
that is.
I'll tell you precisely what you and I came together to do. Right, we were brought in to take tens of thousands of rows uh, of matching data. Right, basically people requesting a
Yeah,
type of viewer
and create
and
that matching algorithm.
build an automated AI enable that matching algorithm. So I think what Databricks allowed us to do very quickly was to build that, right? To build the ML part of that because that's what they do, right? Let's be fair.
Yeah, they
ML,
did.
and they did that. But I think the minute we started getting into trying to build, conversational chatbots, that's when the whole thing collapsed, right?
Yeah.
Not only did it collapse, I tried to do, you remember we started using RAG and we built a RAG pipeline and we built anyway, so I don't want to revisit all of that, but fast forward. And then, so that was like the first half of the year. By the time we reached, August, September, we were so far ahead. We were getting into Llama CPP, we were getting into Olama. We started looking at the Chinese models. Oh my God, what a revelation, right? Like, I mean, that's literally the other big thing to me. This is the year that,
Yeah,
you
the
know,
open source models from China have been
not only
unbelievable.
open source, basically the whole idea that, the US is always going to have a permanent lead, that has not aged well at all, right? I mean, I think the rest of the world is going to play catch up. China is way ahead, right? And yesterday I was reading that their their energy grid and electricity grid is so far ahead of the US that there is no way the US can even build what they have.
No,
That's
no.
how efficient
So
the energy grid is.
I'll break it down for you very quickly how they've done it. Now, the difference between China and the US is first is how quickly regulations are
Fast.
bypassed.
Yeah.
Bypassed for certain industries, right? The government is very involved in the CCP, for whatever you say negative. We're not very political, but I'm saying the thing they do very well is develop, and they
Yes.
develop very fast. That's the thing,
Yeah.
because they have one objective, and that is to be number one and self sufficient. China's always wanted to be self sufficient and build everything in house and not need the rest of the world. They have the rest of the world, which is very good. But tomorrow, China's ecosystem can run without anybody else
Right.
because they've built it in such a way. And what they did with AI was they realized that throwing money at the problem is not going to solve everything, right? We have to become more efficient and we have to build our foundation very strong. They built it like a you build a skyscraper, you start at the bottom. Whereas all of the companies in the US are building single story, warehouses.
Yes. Yes. That's a great
So
analogy.
because
That's
because
good.
because they care about throwing as much money and compute at it as possible, not looking at the foundation, the base, which is the energy grid, which is how electricity is provided to these places. How
But the training, I mean, the thing you found, right, which is how good they are at creating training data because how systematically they actually label their
Yeah, so
data.
the training methodologies, what we talked
Training
about
methodology.
briefly. So it's a lot to do with how people. Okay, so when you look at a model with more psychophancy, it's because of the culture in the place, right?
Mm.
The Chinese models are less have less psychophancy because psychophancy and that emotional aspect of it is less important in China
It's
because they're
less
more
important to
systematic.
be nice or liked. I mean, Chinese people don't care to be liked. So I suspect maybe that's a very not scientific, not a very
No,
PR.
but no, but they are very proud of the process, right? It's like the Asian countries and the Southeast Asian countries mainly are the ones which have developed very, very systematic methods, and right, that's why the economies flourish in a way. You look at Japan, you look at Korea, you look at China,
Yeah, yeah,
Singapore, Thailand, anywhere you look at, and even India for an aspect of it, the manufacturing processes in these places for them to be able to provide for the world are very systematic, no matter what it is to the outside view. Being visiting factories myself for garments, for auto parts, for anything, they are very systematic. There is a process and it's a very simple process. The thing is, the goal is to make the best product with the fewest mistakes possible, and that is not always the out goal other in the western countries. That's to say, because there is more care for emotion, there's more care about how people view it, there's more care about welfare for everything. Maybe it's not a positive thing that welfare isn't as high for the
yeah,
Southeast
yeah,
Asian
yeah.
countries.
Well, I mean, again, that's again, we don't want to become that
But
podcast, which
but
is
I'm saying, but I'm
we're not a
saying that,
geopolitics podcast.
the systematic nature and the culture is what creates these models so efficiently. Like tomorrow, DeepSeek, Quen, any of these models, you speak to them, they're very blunt, right? Now, ChatGPT is given a personality setting. Quen would never do that.
So that is another way of saying direct, maybe or to the point, or precise or concise. And just literally like 20 minutes ago, as I'm opening my Chat GPT 5.2, it's giving me five options now because now even Chat GPT.
Personality. Nobody would ever do that. Like
Uh, so,
it's
but
more
one of the
consumerism, right?
personalities is professional or serious, as you said, which is to the point, right? Anyway, so yeah, here we are. I mean, the point is that we have. Um, spent most of the year just learning about the field. I think we're exiting the year feeling like I would say, I'd call ourselves sort of, intermediate practitioners. If we were skiers, we'd be basically saying, okay, we're now getting good enough to actually go down a couple of easy blues. We're not ready to go down the black diamonds yet, but uh,
We'll get
yeah,
there. I'm
yeah,
confident we'll get there because we're actually working on it, and
yeah,
we're finding creative ways to learn. I mean, just
yeah.
more than just the traditional ways of learning. We found other ways of learning, and we've taught ourselves a lot of things this year. I mean,
Yeah, being
come
self-taught is important. I think being self-taught, and I think the most important thing that I think you and I will agree on is we have to literally you have to stay connected to this field, which means you can't lose touch. Like you can't take a week off. I mean, literally, if you
No,
take a
no, no,
month,
no, there's no like for us, holiday, vacation, whatever it is, we connected still. Like, if you when you were on away for a couple of days or I was away for a couple, we were still talking about exactly what developments are made, sending back and forth tweets or messages of exactly this has happened. This is so we're
but
always
really,
on the
but
look.
there's, yeah, and the reason for it is there's a fire hose, and if you're not consuming from that fire hose every day, then by the time you catch up to it, like when you literally, wake up again, and you're like Rip Van Winkle, except you haven't slept for 20 years. You've been away for a week, and but you've got that much catching up to do. It's really crazy about how this
Yeah,
field is moving.
how it's working. But the one thing we actually focused on a lot was, and this was a very important pivot for us, was actually building without relying too much on frameworks and going back to building everything ourselves.
Yes.
And taking Olama out of the thing, using Llama CPP, and maybe we'll go back even further now and build it completely without even LangChain or something, and build our own
Yeah,
framework to work on.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I'm completely on board with that because I wear another hat right now, and so what I'm finding is, uh, while it's tempting, and we are definitely, you start to feel like you're on the frontier, you're on the bleeding edge. You can do stuff, you can do anything you want,
Yeah.
and while everything does exist for you to, as you said, build your own, agent runtime framework, and not use LangChain. At some point, like I feel like we've passed a Rubicon as far as MCP and A2A are concerned, that you're probably better off building an MCP server based architecture for your agent rather than, right. So rather than inventing your own, this is already open source. It's going to stay open source because it's now part of the Linux Foundation. There's no chance of a rug pull happening. You might as well standardize on MCP.
Yeah,
LangChain, I'm a little,
MCP is here to stay because
yeah,
and the reason it's gone to the Linux Foundation is very I was reading quite a lot about it, and it was to do a lot with the fact that these companies cannot make money off it, right? But they
yeah,
need it. So
yeah.
they really believe in the framework and the fact that OpenAI, Google, and even Claude are
Anthro-
Anthropic, sorry, my bad. No, I'm so used to calling it Claude,
yeah. No, it's fine. I think we know inside what exactly it is, but yeah.
yeah, but Anthropic, OpenAI, and Google, DeepMind, they're all the hands-on with the Linux Fan Foundation to help build MCP because they can't profit off it. It's not a profitable product for them. So for them to continuously throw money at it, it's actually a problem with shareholders and other things. They'll ask, "Why are you building on this?" Right? Because people have money invested. It's not just the minds who are running the company and building the company who have say on what gets built. And that's also a little bit of why models are coming out the way they are, and why there is a stagger in terms
No,
of
no,
everything.
absolutely. Yeah, but I think I'm just trying to respond to what you said originally, which is that, predicting what we might be doing next year. So I feel like it'll be a little bit of both. I feel like we'll be using some of these really open source, truly open source components. We'll be discovering a lot of interesting frameworks. We'll be evaluating them. We'll probably be getting disillusioned by them when there's a weird rug pull happening. When we find that, okay, something that is claiming to be open source is not truly open source, when they start to basically, gently tell you, no, 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 you can't use it this way, you have to pay us. That to me is the worst kind of betrayal, right? Like either you basically come out and say, look, we are a paid service, and you don't make any qualms about it, and you say, okay, you have to pay us $5 a month, $10 a month to use us. What I hate about some people is they'll come out and say we're open source, we're all about open source, and then they'll change their mind because their investors are telling them to start to,
Yeah, I mean,
I mean,
every
some,
every every company has a different motive, right? Certain people are making money in different ways. Some open source developers are making enough money through advertisements or partnerships or something where they feel like that one product which they believe in stays open source. Like, for example, we look at LangChain right now. LangChain is staying open source, and it's
well,
because of
LangChain is LangChain, and there's LangGraph, and there's Langsmith. There's a lot of different parts to the Lang prefix, right? So
yeah.
Langsmith is their big, and I remember this. My other colleague was telling me this, that Langsmith was always a paid product. It was their observability idea, which was which said that basically you build the platform using our open source components, But when it comes time for you to measure how your agent is performing, that telemetry data you'll have to pay us to use.
Yeah.
Oh,
So I mean,
so
they have a way of monetizing it, but the thing is that it allows a lot of people to build in a way and test a lot of agents and test a lot of theories, and allows a lot of people to get into the space. These frameworks like LangChain, the fact that they've kept it free and that they're using the telemetry, that's also to a point where it's very, very commercialized, right? That agent is working a lot. It's in a very commercial setting. It's helping businesses and it's having a lot of traffic run through it. At that point, when you have that many customers, you have that many people working on the agent, then at that point, it is worth investing in your own framework. But to get to
yes,
that
yeah,
point, I really agree that with your point that open source is good and that, developing our framework may be a little early and might not be as beneficial to us as we're thinking. But
yeah,
but I think eventually I see us next year working on it because we're hopeful for the business side of what we do to pick up.
yeah. And don't get me wrong. There is tons of opportunities for making business while staying true to the open source ethos, right? And there's multiple ways to do that, right? We obviously can become a professional services type deal where you have sort of a one-time charge for us either building you an agent or helping you deploy your existing agent. You can actually obviously do some sort of a uh, SLA type deal where you say, okay, we'll manage your backend infrastructure, even though it's running open source, right? Open source doesn't mean it's magically going to run itself. Open source just means you're not paying a license fee
For
just to
the
use it.
Yeah, just to
Um,
use it.
yeah, it still means you still have to build it, you still have to maintain it, you still have to debug it. All that stuff is still going to be required. And agents won't be able to do that for you. You'll still need humans.
But
So, I see like a very interesting new type of business model emerging here.
yeah. And one thing to build our year-end review and emphasize what the biggest takeaway for us this year has been is local AI. I think that's one thing we should touch on
Yeah.
because
Oh my God. Yeah.
it's been the biggest thing of our biggest achievement is sustainably running local AI and running it on different devices. We've run it on Linux, we've run it on Mac, and
Tokens
we've
per
run it on
second.
Windows.
Yeah,
We've
we
run it
love the
on
tokens
everything.
per second. We got it running. We got it first. We got it running on an EC2 instance, like a G4 DN, which is still a very
Edge cloud,
expensive GPU based instance
which was about
from,
40
but it was
tokens
our
per
own.
second. It was a
Yeah, we got to about
Quen
40.
Quen
I got
380.
my latest acquisition, my M4 Pro Mac. Back to being a Mac user after many years, really loving it. And but it's got the M4 Silicon, which I didn't really know as much about. You were obviously a little bit
Yeah,
more
that
well
was Kimi
versed, but
K2. And that was a big point that Kimi K2 being able to run on those two Mac studios with the M3 Ultras, even though it's a terabyte of RAM, but the fact that you can run it
yeah,
1.2 trillion parameter model, even if it's quantized a bit, on
yeah,
two Mac
yeah,
studios, that's showing something. That the fact that okay, that's powerful. Okay, maybe it's more efficient to use NVIDIA GPUs, but the fact that you can use two devices to run a frontier model at home and get decent TPS. Like I think they were getting 20 tokens per second, which is not bad. I mean, to run a model of that size, you're still
so let's have another prediction. What's your next prediction? So like I think we already have at least one prediction in the let's say the prediction bag, which is
I
that I
think
think Databricks is going to continue to it's Databricks is continue to stay relevant in this world. And it's not because I hate what they did. I just feel like
they need to
they've just
redefine
not come out
themselves.
with anything that is
They need to redefine themselves.
sorry?
They need to redefine
They need to
themselves.
redefine. So that's one prediction. Yeah. The second prediction I think is related to what you just said, which is that um Edge AI. What is going to happen with Edge AI? You go
Uh,
first, then I'll go next.
I have a thing which is more to do with Apple Silicon than Edge AI
Okay.
right now. I think
Okay.
that the fact that what people aren't realizing is, and why Nvidia is so hyped and all of these things are so hyped, is because what they're doing for the industry, right? And people don't have the knowledge of how powerful Apple Silicon is, because that M4 Pro which you have is much smaller than my device, which has a 3080. It's an older GPU, but my device is bulky. It requires a 170-watt adapter, right? It's got fans, it's loud, and it gets hot. I'm saying that your
Mhm.
MacBook Pro runs quiet,
Amazing.
silently, and you can run
Silent.
local AI at home for
Yeah.
the price. And I mean, Apple may have expensive pricing, but it is justified because of what the chip can do, which we are realizing now. Their actual silicon is so powerful because it brings AI into the hands of consumers. Now, tomorrow, if you want to just run a Quen 38B at home and just want to have something completely offline, and you can train it basically and give it an information update, let's say, because there's a knowledge
Yes.
cutoff, right? So you can have a model at home which is reliably better than ChatGPT 3.5, which was a very good model to be say, and it will answer your questions in a very good manner and be very accurate as much as it can be. It won't be very complex at problem solving, but the daily AI needs for most people will be solved at home, and all you
Great.
need is a
No,
MacBook.
yeah, I think the combination of people realizing that, bigger is not necessarily better. I think the three things. Okay, so your prediction is Apple Silicon is really going to make, uh, you know, uh, is going to lead to two things. It's, I think, what by inference or by extrapolation of what you said, I'm going to just editorialize what you said by saying what that effectively means is that the Apple App Store is gonna have a pretty large profusion of, like, run locally agentic apps, right? So
Yeah,
that's one
now
prediction.
now that's going to happen. Like, I think they're going to just build agents, build them into an app, and just put them on the app store. Because I think the
Well, it's
the
not just it's not just Apple then, right? So it's not Apple building these agents. They'll because they already
and no,
have
no,
an App
anybody,
Store
like it's an,
ecosystem,
it's
right?
like it's like an Apple iOS develop. You get a developer's account, and anybody can ship an app, right? And I'm saying that the iPhone chip, the ones in your iPhone, are so powerful. Like, we don't know what they're capable of. The A15 Ultra, the A60. I'm not sure what the latest chip is, but I'm saying those chips are so powerful in phones, and the phones have 8 GB of RAM. They can probably run a 600 million parameter model completely locally on your phone, and I'm saying that's not far away. I think we will see phones with more RAM. I know there's a RAM shortage right now with everything that's going on, but what I predict is, forget running AI on your laptop. I think you will have locally running models on your mobile phones or your tablets, and the iPads have M4 chips, have Apple
No,
Silicon
I,
chips.
I totally agree. I think this is definitely coming. And I think it's a fair prediction. I will definitely agree with what you said. I think that Apple Silicon is going to continue to keep getting better, faster, cheaper. Um, the feeling I get is that all the all the NVIDIA GPUs are going to get bought up by OpenAI and the FANG companies in China, right? So there'll be very few.
China's not
There'll
allowed
be
to buy
very
them. China's not allowed to buy them right now. They're only allowed to buy the older
no, no,
chips.
I know, but no, and China's building their own. So I'm just saying that there's I think there's still a huge overhang of investment that's going into all these GPU cloud providers, and the silent revolution that is happening is just going to be, wait a minute, Apple's selling this amazing silicon. They have an amazing UI. They have an amazing distribution mechanism in the App Store. Why don't I just start building applications that run locally? And that maybe are
Yeah,
headless, right? You can basically have an application that's headless that actually your iPhone connects to, and
yeah.
you can do all sorts of cool stuff.
Yeah, like, I mean,
So
you can build like what we've been able to do is completely run the MCP server, the Llama server, and even the UI for our agent. It's
yes,
one click,
in
which
one
we
click.
did. So I mean, if you can package that into an app and just have a button to do it, which is very simple because we've been able to do it on Windows
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Apple. So I mean, I'm sure it'll.
But I think so. I'll take that prediction and I'll go one step further. I think a new type of business model is emerging where, and maybe we'll be the first ones. Maybe we'll look back and say, oh yeah, this is how we made our business
Yeah.
palatable to customers. Is that the way we'll deploy our product? Is we'll say we'll buy a Mac Studio or a Mac Mini, right? That the capital cost for that is, let's say, 500 to between 500 and 2,000 or $5,000, right? Not a lot for most companies. Most companies won't balk at a $5,000 initial expense.
No, they won't.
and what that gives them is literally an agent, that's working inside their server room, and they can do all sorts of cool stuff with it, right? They don't have to do anything. They don't have to go pay anybody. There's no monthly cost. There's no carrying cost. There's no cloud cost. It's all there, and it's completely self-contained.
And I think
So
Apple Silicon's the new chips which come out with the Mac Pros, the new Mac Studio which will come out with the M5 Ultras and the M5 Pros. We haven't seen those chips right now. We were talking about an M3 Pro and an M4, which is two generations and a generation old, right? We're talking about old hardware. Old maybe whatever it is, but I'm saying that it's not the latest and Apple's still waiting because Apple knows, and Apple's always been delayed, but they've been good. That's the
yeah, they
thing.
play last, they play last, and they play solid. That's
And
their
that's
game,
what
right?
I've seen with, and that's comes to your point with database also. First movers disadvantage. It's never first movers advantage, as we've realized in the tech world.
I
It's
mean, there's
first,
the last mover advantage. People talk about the last mover. I mean, if you play last and you have a solid game, then people only remember you. They don't even remember the first mover. I mean,
yeah,
nobody remembers French.
like nobody remembers Gemini 3 right now because 5.2 and Opus are the talk of the town. Gemini 3 came out 2 weeks ago, and everybody wanted to be on
No,
Gemini.
I see Gemini 3. I think Gemini 3 was also with the Nano Banana Pro. So Nano Banana Pro is still
Yeah, I mean, but I'm saying that the headlines, and in our world, it feels like it was months ago that Nano Banana Pro
yeah.
came out.
No, very true. Very true. Okay, so that's prediction number two, which is a good one. Apple Silicon becomes a really, really important part of the, I guess, the ecosystem. Um, what else?
I think
Let
I
me.
think we'll start seeing a lot more AI in the defense sector
Hmm.
because
Yeah, I can't really. I don't know much about it. I've never really been in the defense sector myself. But yeah, I mean, what's to say that they're not already there? I mean, I think
I think
AI. Yeah,
I think for the fact of the thing is people don't realize the importance of being able to, okay, very simply extract information efficiently, which is a very underrated aspect of LLMs,
yeah,
right? Or through MCP, through RAG, and anything, extract existing information more efficiently. Because the
yeah,
time it takes to get information, even if you have the information, let's say you have a book, it's about finding line 14 on in chapter 4. You don't know what page chapter 4 is on, and you have to look through it, right? Whereas if you just ask that I wanted this, it tells you exactly where it is. And
yeah,
that's the
yeah,
power of giving information, right? Existing information becoming more accessible, right? And the places where this information is abundant but inaccessible is places like the military, like healthcare, where there is so many records. To go through records, they need people to go through records, right?
yeah,
And they need,
yeah.
and you're wasting man hours. Those same people have other roles in the hospital. They're not just kept there to just go through records, right? But it takes up a doctor's time, it takes up a nurse's time, it takes up a peon's time, it takes up everybody's time to try and find a certain record. And what AI does is their time is valuable because they save lives, they help people, the military is protecting us, they're doing certain things, and everybody's time who's valuable is actually given back to them. So you're
So
actually,
no, that's an amazing ideal situation. I hope it happens that way. I think in practice they'll probably, as with everything else in the military, especially, it's probably true of military budgets, the world over.
yeah.
There's going to be a lot of bloat. Palantir is the company that comes to everybody's head the
Yeah,
minute
well,
you talk about AI for the military, and they've obviously been embedded with the military literally for the last 15-20 years. Nobody knows what they do for them, but they've done some amazing stuff for them, and now they're obviously building non-military applications. They're a sort of a SaaS company. But yeah, I mean, I don't have a horse in that race. I don't really have much of a prediction, except to say that yes, of course, the military is going to innovate, and of course,
yeah.
my sense is there's probably a whole bunch of stuff that the military doesn't want to release
No,
to
I
the
think
rest of the
there's a lot
world,
of stops on exactly
because
existing AI. I think they're monitoring OpenAI so I'm saying that the
okay, good.
military will is probably stopping OpenAI and these other companies from releasing a lot of stuff existingly
Yeah,
right
yeah, yeah.
now.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree. So anyway, so militaries, I don't have much of of
Okay,
a
let's
rejoinder there.
we can because that's quite vague and we won't actually understand exactly what's happening there.
No, 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 no. I'm saying keep it in. I'm not saying don't keep it in. I'm just
No, no,
saying that
but we
I
should
don't
have an
have.
additional one
Uh,
as well. We should have an
yeah, I
additional
don't think I have much
relatable.
to add. I don't have much to add to it. I just, yeah. So I think my bold prediction. Let me see. Let me think about this. I don't really have much to say other than to say that um, we've covered Edge AI. We've obviously covered the irrelevance of data breaks. We've covered a military.
I have another actual quite
Yeah,
I
go
have
ahead.
quite a polarizing one. Recently, the Nvidia Blackwell chips were gotten to China, and they made their way to China through different parts of the world because China will get access to them. I think Huawei and the Chinese manufacturers of you know GPUs and silicon and these are going to become very close to Nvidia. I think the thing that separates them will be
Very,
very
very close. You mean they'll become in terms of capabilities?
in terms of capabilities and also in terms of efficiency. Right now, the only difference is the efficiency of the chip, of the architecture, right? NVIDIA has certain technology which China doesn't have access to because it's completely patented, it's only built in house. Because they were able to synthesize a chip without sending it to production. Like, they were able to just in the first go. Normally, it takes multiple attempts to try and get a chip working. They developed this technology quite a few years ago, which actually gave them the head start and the jump over AMD and everybody else. But what they're actually taking for granted is one thing which I really feel is why they're valued at what they're valued at currently is because everybody thinks nobody can do what they do.
Yeah, that's their thing. They have this moat, and they have this some sort of trade secret that nobody else seems to be.
But
At least that is
I
it's
think
an
in a
impediment.
year's time, yeah, I think in a year's time, Nvidia is not going to grow much with market cap. I think they'll actually come down quite a bit, and because they'll miss earnings. Because the thing is, when people realize you don't have to knock somebody off the hill to injure them, right? To injure their reputation. Like when there's a king, if you show him as wounded, people lose faith. They just have
Yes,
to wound Nvidia enough,
and
right? So
they're
they have
so far ahead. Their perception was that they're impenetrable.
now with Apple Silicon and you have Huawei coming into the picture, where Huawei will be close. We don't know what is coming out of China. And when they do release something, they will wait till the time. Even if it's 96% or 90% there, it is
Yeah.
enough to dethrone Nvidia because the thing is people lose belief. And once people lose belief, that's what's propping up everything in this market. It's belief, right? Everything is belief.
So here's my prediction. It's completely out of left field. It's unrelated to anything you've said, but it's obviously important. It's that the problem that frontier models have today of being frozen in time. They're basically just, they're stuck because their weights are trained only till, let's say, January of 2020.
Yeah, and the knowledge cutoffs. Yeah.
And then it's these cutoffs that are bad. So my prediction is either the LLM makers, and they have to, right? They have to innovate or die. They will either figure out a way to allow LLMs to evolve even after their weights have been frozen, right? Which is there's a few other. It's called fine tuning, whatever it is. That I mean, OpenAI is of course working on that, and they'll either come up with a way for you to take a copy of it or your own little sandbox and then tune the hell out of it so that it's like it's so you're pushing what they're calling it. You're pushing the efficiency away from it. So RAG is the most inefficient way to tell to give additional more relevant
Information.
and recent information to your LLM. And the most efficient way is to actually update the weights, right? So there is something in the middle that's going to sort of happen, and I
I
think that
I find something very interesting because what we were discovering is like and I was reading a lot about it is something like reinforcement learning and how external context management. So the in a way they hold the training set outside and they can just plug it in and out of the model, right? Like weekly updates, so have it running somewhere, but the context or the cutoff is not actually a cutoff; it's a pause. That's I think how it will evolve, right? Because right now what we've learned is that you can manage context in a large window, or a large text field, their data is so large that they have to cut it off, right? Because otherwise the model constantly working on that would take too much energy if they
Of
had
course.
complete access to the internet, because then you'd have to
Yeah, I don't know anything about what goes into making the sausage, so we're just sort of. I mean, I don't think I ever
I
want.
think
It's
I
like,
think I think they'll have a way to a more it'll be a more complicated MCP in a way, which is far more
yeah,
efficient.
but so now I have a counter view. So I have. It's weird. I have two counter predictions. It's very strange. But I have either a way of saying either OpenAI, which is still the which is still the thought leader, at least in North America,
Yeah,
um, is going to come up with a way to efficiently, let's call it continually, retrain or adapt their models, and they'll make it so that their big announcement will be our training weights are no longer frozen, and our models are already learning. And by the way, you can. This is how you can actually you know additionally train our models, and that will be a huge success because ultimately that will reduce the
yeah.
uh the token cost. Token.
And it'll reduce their burden of training also, because it'll kind of open
They're just
space.
outsourcing it to everybody else, right?
But
So
I think
that's
there's an ethics AI problem there. I think the reason that freight weights are frozen is also probably with regulations.
oh, no, that's what I'm saying. So the governance problem is, I'm just literally glossing over it, but maybe they'll find a way to solve it. Who knows?
Yeah.
That's one bold prediction. The other side of this prediction is the exact opposite, which is to say that there'll be effectively a backlash, and saying the backlash will be basically just all of us old school curmudgeon software engineers saying, look, there used to be a time where we cared about hand optimizing code, and CPU cycles matters, and watts per usage matters. What kind of world are we living in where we're basically consuming so much electricity and all we're thinking about is throw more GPU cycles at it? So if that happens, I think what will happen then is to say that it'll become like, okay, look, an LLM is now getting a 5.1 LLM is like getting a Pentium 5, or a Pentium whatever, Xeon 5, or whatever the latest
Yeah, yeah.
was.
So basically, the next
Right,
generation of
in your laptop. You get it, and then it's not like you can suddenly, you don't get buyer's remorse. You're not like then saying, oh, I wish I could get the next generation, because the next generation is coming out in 6 months' time. You are happy with what you have. And the good news is that most of the software or the scaffolding that's around that is going to function just fine. So the idea being that the LLM is just like another thing. It's just another part of the tech stack. It's like a
I think we'll get
processor.
to a point, and the way processes are like, I mean, for a lot of people, they don't need the latest and greatest, right? So I mean, I
No,
think
but I think it's even more than that. It's saying that, okay, it'll be a class of LLM. So like, just in the same way as you can say, I have
i9,
a
i5,
I have a
i7.
I have a Snapdragon for my phone from Qualcomm, and I can do stuff on a Raspberry Pi if all I need is this. They all run the same operating system. I can
Yeah,
run Linux on all three operating systems. Linux is just, it's somewhat, I can run it on the slowest operating processor, and I can run it on the fastest, and it's more or less the same. I think the same type of thing might emerge where it'll matter less which LLM you're using. Of course, it'll matter that the LLM has certain capabilities, but as long as the capabilities are met, you can use it, right? It's sort of interchangeable. And the thing that
yeah. I
you
think it'll become a preference thing rather than what's the best.
And
That
also, more importantly, you will actually have a lot of guardrails built into your own agent descriptions, right? Like the thing that you and I are talking about, these markdown files or the agent scaffolding, right? The thing that defines the agent's behavior will become the actual thing that's causing, is making sure that it doesn't hallucinate. And we're talking,
that's what you're.
yeah, we're talking about business use cases anyway. So we're not expecting people to misbehave with the agent. It's not like we're worried about
No,
all these
I don't
built-ins
think.
use psychosis and all. But yeah, I think that could be the other side of the equation, which is that it becomes less important. Uh, People are less concerned with the latest, model that GPT is releasing, because this whole new set of ecosystem, and layers have now been being standardized and solidified, that actually make it less relevant which GPU with GPT you're using, right? Like you can
Yeah,
actually, I mean, I'm using agents where GPT itself or Claude itself is saying you don't need to go with 5.0. You can just use 4.0.
Yeah,
40
for
without
sure.
being high.
So I mean, everything is use case dependent, and I think we've covered a lot of what we think will change. But it'll be very interesting to look back on this and see that what of our predictions actually happened, where we were, and maybe it's wilder than we can ever imagine because that is how reality is. It's wilder than you can ever imagine.
It could be. I mean, I'm not saying it won't. I'm just saying that we are here making predictions, and I think it'll be fun to come back and review our predictions a year from now.
One thing, one
If
thing
we're
I
still
really hope.
podcast, if we're still publishing a year from.
Oh, of course, I don't think we're going anywhere. But I'm saying that I think what we're looking forward to from the next year. I think is a good way to put a close to this podcast. Is couple of things we're looking forward to. We're looking forward to working more with the AI infrastructure which is in place, possibly
Yeah,
creating new infrastructure, and
yeah.
exploring more of our business side of it because that is also very important to us. That is
No,
how.
yeah. I mean, we are among basically we are a let's see how do we say this? We are a business that also happens to have a podcast, right? So at the end of the day, we are looking to make money doing building building AI applications and AI platforms. And along the way, we are going to be our job. What we love to do is to talk about all we've learned during this journey. So it'll definitely be anything we do is likely going to be value create will actually have created value enough value, and some third party will see enough value in what we've created to pay us money for it. So the one thing that we can be sure of is everything that we're talking about, all the design choices we're making, everything that we're building, it'll be backed with not pie in the sky stuff but real usage. Like people are going to be
Yeah, but
business use.
the whole goal with this for us, we build things which we find value in. Like in the things we're building also right now, we can't disclose much about them. But I'm saying the things we build right now also are stemming from real world cases where we can add value. And
Yes.
that's the whole thing. We want to build useful applications because if you're not useful, there's no point building them because it's just what's the point of wasting somebody's time,
Well, I
right?
mean, no, I mean, that's true. There are people who want to use AI for, for the sake of it, for the sake of art. I mean, I'm not here to judge anybody, right? I mean, and art
No,
is
but
used.
our philosophy, why we started building, was basically building something useful, which would, be interactive.
Yes.
Our business side of it is different, but our like personal thing, which gets us excited, is building useful applications, which make a lot of operations easier for people.
Yeah. And learning about this as we go along. I mean, again, like I said, it remains to be seen whether this is electricity or this is the mobile internet or something in the middle. Um, I think it's now starting to feel like it's going to be a little bigger than the mobile internet, but I don't know if it's the new electricity yet. So it's somewhere in the middle now. So
We'll know more as we come to it, and
I'm very excited about what next year brings. Excited to be part of this journey and have Avya be part of it. And yeah, we'll be back probably late
post
January.
yeah,
February.
post the New Year because I think early January is quite busy for us, with
Yeah,
a lot of
I mean
stuff.
we might drop the next episode around probably like Valentine's Day, but I think there'll definitely be a lot of updates even in that 1 month.
We'll try and put some short form content or something, maybe some snippets or a little update in the middle saying this is what we're doing. Stay tuned. We'll keep you more
Yeah.
informed.
Yeah.
And to close on, it's been a great year, and I'm glad we started this, and we're glad we're taking on this journey because it's brought us very, very far from where we initially thought we would be doing when we started collaborating. And I want to say very Merry Christmas to everyone and a Happy New Year. And thank you for listening. Thank you for supporting us. And thank you for keeping us honest on this journey. And I would like to thank Sid. And I would like to thank Sid for being, a great partner in this journey and, being consistent with me in throughout all of this. And, you know, I have to give it to him for not getting frustrated and keeping at it and, even motivating me to keep going.
No, you're the driving force here, Abhya. You've definitely kept me honest as well. So I appreciate having you as my partner, and it's great. I think we're gonna do a lot of cool stuff together. And again, I echo Abhya's sentiments. Everybody, please have a safe, happy, and joyous Christmas and New Year holiday, and we'll see you in the new year.
See you, everybody. Take care. Bye. Bye.